intensely, so does the mom, taking care of every little thing. But germs can ruin it all. What if he falls ill on his exam day?
Every single day is important for kids. That's why they need Dettol soap. It protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday protection, everyday Dettol.
65 grams, now 150 naira.
Sunday morning, 11th of March, was a regular day. I wake up, go to work, then I got to the toll, and the XUV was coming back from the club, and it hit the passenger's bus, which I was inside, the commercial bus.
When I got there, I saw his state. It wasn't hopeful.
I also wish he's fine. I wish he gets back to what he used to be.
This year, the weather conditions Harmattan in Nigeria is harsh, with temperature dropping very low in some parts of the country. Many underprivileged children are exposed to these harsh weather conditions, putting them at risk to all sorts of respiratory infections with devastating consequences. We request well-meaning Nigerians to kindly donate warm clothing, blankets, beverages, soap, moisturizers, and other essential items for the benefit of these children. Get involved to support displaced and underprivileged children exposed to these harsh weather conditions. Powered by Aisha Buhari Foundation.
My name is Balaunti. I'm the Managing Director of Petroleum Product Marketing Company, a subsidiary of NNPC. There are significant price discrepancy between Nigeria and its neighbors across Africa. There's a discrepancy of between 150 to 250 naira. That creates an incentive for arbitrage, whereby smuggling triumphed by taking petroleum products across the neighbors so that they can be sold at higher price. While the smugglers are making the money, Nigeria is paying for it. And that payment is distorting everything that we do in terms of planning, in terms of our ability to fund, and thereby taking money that is meant for development. The introduction of this Operation White will have a reduction of close to 6 million liters on a daily basis, which if you take an average of 150, translates to a saving of over 1 billion naira every day. That is the benefit of Operation White, and we have started seeing the great benefit.
The program is Good Morning Nigeria on NTA. Now time for business, and Kulo Mohammed is our guide.
Good to have you along. Human capital development has been defined as expanding the richness of human life and living patterns, away from advancing the richness of the economy in which human beings live. This approach focuses on expanding the lives of people rather than assuming that economic growth will lead automatically to greater well-being.
That goes to the federal government right now. And I know that the current administration are doing quite a lot to ensure that the youths of Nigeria are taken out of the streets. The agricultural sector, of course, you should see that is working at the moment. And this is what I can tell you President Muhammad Buhari has achieved. You know, there are shared prosperity models of different sort of farmings, SME schemes that has been deployed. Little low-end farmers are receiving funding from the federal government direct to invest in low-scale farming, and all of these are ongoing. You know, and then as well the youths who are willing. They are not all the youths who are willing to do stuff, but I can tell you that the total number of youths in Nigeria have benefited from the, agricultural program of the federal government.
The federal government of Nigeria's social investment and inclusive programs have attained commendable statuses as many people have been pulled out of abject poverty. Let's now let you see where Wednesday's activities on the floor of the Nigerian stock market placed market indices. Just so you know, it depreciated by 1.9%. My name is Kolo Muhammad. Good to have you along. Be with you again soon.
Thank you very much, Kolo Muhammad, for the business package. Next for us is newspaper review.
And of course, it's time for newspaper review. We're still expecting to have our reviewer within the period of this segment. For now, Kinsley and I will try to do justice to the papers that we have this morning. First, let's begin with the Daily Sun newspaper. On the right-hand side of the nameplate of Daily Sun newspaper, we have IGP Lawan Wajabiamila shout over insecurity. We can't pretend about worsening situation, says Speaker. That's the rider to that headline. It's on page 6 of Daily Sun. Now, the lead story this morning is also on insecurity. The Northern Coalition plans Operation Shege Kafasa. Two riders agrees to float joint security outfit. Bandits shoot police helicopter in Kaduna. The story is on page 43 and 5 of this Daily Sun. Now, there are other stories trending. Insurgency. U.S. announces a fresh $40 million aid to Nigeria. Vows to hold federal government accountable if security forces violate human rights. The story is on page 38. Now, police files 16-count charge against Wadume, Captain Blarabe, and 18 others. That's on page 5. Now, directly below that, we have a presidency to Khan. Stop disinformation. Says no ransom was paid for release of Dapchi girls. The story is also on page 38. But of course, the photo story you'll see there is that of the transmission company of Nigeria, TCN Power Station in Akinyemi Ring Road, Ibadan, just yesterday. You can see the huge fire in that property. And then at the bottom of the Daily Sun, we have Lassa fever. NCDC has managed 365 cases, says the DG. It's page 39 of the Sun newspaper. Kinsley.
Okay, we'll take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust, immediately below the nameplate, says Kaduna, that's the kicker. Police killed 250 terrorists and bandits in Kodaro Forest. Details of that story on page 6. State's IGR hits 986.29 billion naira in 9 months. That story is attributed to the National Bureau of Statistics with details on page 16. Tough issues as Buhari meets economic team today. The story has it in part that 4 months after their inauguration, President Muhammadu Buhari is expected today to meet members of his economic team amidst a myriad of economic challenges. Among other issues, according to the paper, recent decisions by the government, particularly border closure and implementation of the Finance Act 2020. And sources said this will be the first time the president will be meeting the members of the economic team since their inauguration. And then right below the photographs there on the front page, you have disquiet over vacant APC National Secretary's position. That's on page 43. And declare state of emergency on security and SCIA. That's the Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs in Nigeria, tells Buhari. Details on page 3. Also on page 3, federal government restricts mobile phone users to 3 numbers. All right, Kira, let's take a look at the stories ourselves. So before we go ahead with the editorial.
Yes, this issue of insecurity, IGP Lawan Wajabiamila shout over that. And of course, the story here on daily sensitive Northern Coalition plans Operation Shege Kafasa. What is happening? We'll just be discussing Amoteku, and this is coming on, and other regions are probably planning to come up with something. What does that tell us, with respect to the insecurity situation in the country?
Well, it's certainly, I mean, we recall the furor, if you like, that was generated with the launch of Amoteku in the southwest. But it's quite clear that these are complementary, if not supplementary measures by various interest groups, and more particularly zonal governments, say the 6 geopolitical zones, to respond to the security challenges, because the security outfits, under the control of the federal government, are quite overstretched. I mean, we have seen that the armed forces, that's particularly the army, in virtually all the states of the federation, the police also have their own challenges. But the key thing is, in my opinion, that this shouldn't just be a knee-jerk reaction. In other words, because you see maybe Amoteku would come up in the southwest, then you create yours, and then the south side to wake up and create. There should be some deep thinking that goes into all of this, so that you know precisely the operational structure, what will happen. It shouldn't be seen and it should never be conceived as a response to what others are doing, but it must be a response to your own security challenges and how you can better secure your environment. Of course, and always bearing in mind that the federal government has overall responsibility for national security.
Yeah, some opinions actually have it that it is very necessary for these complementary or supplementary, security outfits to come up, because the kidnapping, banditry, and other criminal activities have actually permeated all parts of the country, in localities, in the cities today. People are kidnapped in cities.
That's true.
Right. The medical doctor whose wife was killed in Kaduna, she and her children were picked up in their home.
That's true.
Right. So, and it is so pervasive that Nigeria needs to do something extra. Now, community policing that the IG has come up with is another healthy development, in this direction. And again, it also could dovetail into what has been argued over the years, that the state police, is necessary.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable because the population is growing by the day, and of course we don't have a commensurate security apparatus to face what is happening, because with the current development, technology, and all of that is facilitating, the ability of these guys to operate.
Well, Kieran, you'll recall that on the program earlier in the week, we were talking about the fact that there seems to be no optimal utilization even of the current personnel strength of the police, because a good number of them are deployed for private security duties, which truly amounts to the privatization of our collective resource, namely, the resource of the police. The policemen are recruited, trained, maintained, and equipped, from our collective purse, but you find tens of thousands of them have been deployed to be guarding private persons, and in most cases they are just sitting idle in the locations where those so-called big men and big women are. So that's one leg. But something happened yesterday. I mean, DCP Frank Umba, of course, who is our regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, was given a briefing as to what happened in Kaduna.
Yes.
That bandits or kidnappers, fired at a chopper, that's an helicopter, being used for purposes of, facilitating the operations against those bandits in the forest. And it turned out that the pilot and the other officer who was on board were injured, but of course they landed safely. Landed safely, and then they were evacuated to the hospital. They didn't sustain life-threatening injuries. What does that tell you? I mean, these guys have
rocket launchers.
Absolutely.
They have rocket launchers, ground-to-air missiles.
That's right.
Things like that. Whatever capacity they have, nobody knows. But if they're able to, shoot at the helicopter and got it, then, of course, they have something to worry about.
Kieran, that used to happen in Sambisa, at least, or with Boko Haram, before they were neutralized and they didn't have the capability again of firing at aircraft. But for this to now take place in Kaduna, tells us something, yes.
Yeah, Bayo, Atebi just joined us.
It took place in Kuduru Forest. There was a multi-operation by Operation Pofada, in combination with special forces and the Inspector General of Police and the Rapid Response Forces. So they had support from the police helicopter services. And because the National Assembly was briefed, the service chief briefed the National Assembly that there's now an international dimension. ISWAP and other international terrorists have entered the groups. And the proof of that was that the helicopter was shot at with a helicopter gunship and ground-to-air missiles. Apparently, the Valiant pilot was able to maneuver and land safely in Kaduna. They had injuries, but it's not life-threatening. They are responding to treatment. But later on, the helicopter too was okay because it was flown back to Abuja. But the outcome of that was that about 250 bandits were neutralized in that forest. Now, that forest, Kuduru, covers the borders between Kaduna, Zamfara, and also Katsina State. So, and that has been the places where they always run to. You recall there was a time that the Birnin-Gwari Road was almost impassable. People who were coming from the West Central State, from Kwara across, had to deviate through Bida, through Mina, to come through Abuja here, Suleja, to get to Kaduna because they can't pass that Birnin-Gwari Road. Those guys had taken over the road. Now, they were there to rout them out. Also, the same thing happened in Katsina. About 26 persons were rescued from another forest. Again, these people came on motorcycles, about 50 of them, and took these people away. And they were demanding 1 million each from each of them. But the police were able to rescue them also yesterday.
I was just going to say, I don't remember the exact number now. I mean, we had that during the youth service. How many personnel are in a platoon? Is it 50 or I'm not quite sure. I'm sure the
platoon for the soldiers.
Yeah, for soldiers, yes. For military personnel, there were 50 or so. So if you neutralized 250, over a period of operation, let's say 2 days or yesterday or so, that tells you, for instance, that you had 5 platoons. Assuming there are 250, yes. 5 platoto. I mean, this is
in one forest.
In one forest,
but there are other forests.
And then in Katsina, as you are saying, by another 50 motorbikers, came and then kidnapped people. That's another platoon. 6 platoons of bandits. That tells you that this is an army of invasion.
It is growing. It is growing, and in fact, it's something to really worry about.
But we must commend the security forces because they are rising to the challenge. I mean, what the police did yesterday was something that is very significant. But it tells us that the problem is much deeper, and they have to just continue, as it were, pounding and neutralizing these elements wherever they are.
But any other story you want to?
Yes. Maybe follow-up stories too. Also, there's a follow-up in Kaduna. Yesterday, a group that called themselves a Coalition of Northern Group has also proposed what they call a Northern security outfit. They could name it Shege Kafasa. And they're also proposing that for the 19 northern states. Again, we're going back to the danger of thinking about self-help security groups under the regional platform. Again, it's a recourse to the regional mentality. There are no regions in Nigeria today. You have states. States are the states that form part of the federation. After that, you have local governments. But when we tend to think in the context of regionalism, that we talk about northwest, southwest, southeast, it is the past mentality that is hounding us. You cannot have a legal basis for a regional outfit.
Nigeria is evolving like every other nation. Development is taking place. For the fact that, of course, we had regions in the past, it does not really mean that we cannot structure a security arrangement based on that, because there should be collaboration between the states. For instance, the states that are in the particular region, they have common boundaries, rules, and all of that. Markets, they even attend the same markets. They have a trading that is going on in all the markets in all the states. So there should be collaboration between those states and among them too, to ensure that whatever outfit that has been floated, will work in accordance with all the agreement, reached by the regions.
Yes, collaboration, but where is the legal basis? You have state house of assemblies that makes law for a state. Which one is going to make law for the region?
Inter-assembly arrangement and agreement. These things are evolving. Because I want to believe that as population grows, and of course development evolves. We should be able to develop or think along the development, and of course bring out new ideologies that we could approach to address our immediate challenges.
Well, the ideology that is being harped upon now, and yesterday the Inspector General of Police, when he was summoned, also gave a brief about the need to harp on the need for community policing. And I think the members of the National Assembly have bought into the idea, and they are going to walk into it. Furthermore, they have also understood the challenges of the security personnel, and they are ready to cooperate, because the issue of the challenge has become a matter of concern for all. Yesterday, the Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs also made a pronouncement on this. And they have now asked that the president should declare a state of emergency in the country because of this.
It is high time
on the issue of community policing, I think, again, there will be practical challenges of implementation. We have read in the papers, in the course of our review, that and I think, Bayo, you even referenced that where it was said that those who would be members of the community police outfit will not be paid. And I think the age is 21 to 50. Age is 21 to 50, and we said that we're going to, since I'm about 21 years old, I would enlist in it. But here we are, you are getting volunteers to be part of the community policing strategy for the country. In the meantime, the regular police force, members of regular police force who are recruited and paid, from the National Treasury, most of them don't get to do the real work for the generality of the people. It's like, I'm not sounding like a broken record. You have tens of thousands of them. If you go to offices later on, or you go to most homes now where you have big men or those who have subscribed to the services of this policeman, you have them all over the place. Have them, and where else do you have? I mean, we recognize that there was a time when the incidents actually escalated, that virtually every branch of a bank in Nigeria today will have at least one policeman. But that even is becoming dysfunctional, because the crooks know precisely where the policemen are stationed, and you saw what happened at Ofa. Yes, and in most other locations, whether Ekiti or elsewhere, so they can recce the place and they know how to take them out. And unfortunately, a number of policemen have been lost. So why don't you have your improved technology, as Kirian would say, in tracking or policing your bank premises? If every branch of a bank doesn't have to have a policeman.
In fact, what happened at Mpapi, it was the policeman who was overwhelmed, and he suddenly raised alarm, and immediately the guard brigades and the FCT police command went to the rescue, and they were able to catch them.
There must be a panic button. Yes. There must be a panic button that should be. That's part of the use of technology. You have your CCTV. If they know that at the end of the day they will be caught, look, there will be more caution. There will be more caution in you raiding banks, and then don't say, how many bank branches do you have? I'm not assuming, for instance, that every branch of a bank in Nigeria has, but most banks, if you go there, you will see one or two policemen, and they are armed. And these guys are ordinarily should be on the beat, on the streets, patrolling.
I think I agree with you. 317,000, that is the strength of Nigerian police, and if you have nearly 50% of them attached to politically exposed person or other extra duties, other than internal security, then we have a challenge.
What is even politically exposed person? See, if you have to be a man of the people, why are you afraid? Why are you scared of your own people? You are representing a people, yet you can't go home freely. That doesn't make sense to me. If you are a leader and people you are leading, do not believe in you, of course you are not leading anything. It's just part of the problem. That's why every other politician will want 2 or 3, 4 policemen around him all the time. Remember the incident of in Abia in Imo State, where one of the political bigwigs there was mistakenly shot down, by security personnel, who was with him, and he has always been has always been accompanied by 3 or 4 policemen at the same time. Right, so I mean, it's unbecoming, and I believe that we'll get out of it, you know.
So if you're in Jamal, you don't need police
you
guards.
You don't need
Okay, all right, Bayo, let's very quickly mention the editorial. It's on the Punch newspaper, page 22. Challenges in staggered universities calendar. It's the editorial. It says that unified academic calendar of universities in the country, which to start in October and end in June, has been ruptured. This, of course, is attributable to the incessant strikes. Incessant strikes also relating to underfunding. Now, the editorial adds, many private secondary schools in Nigeria charge fees which universities dare not ask their students to pay. It is for this reason that some people believe that students should pick part of the bill government pays if the learning environment invests is to improve. There's nothing like free education anywhere. Either the individual or the government picks up the bill. But the editorial is saying, let students also pay fees.
Well, in federal universities, tuition is free. And of recent, there have been clamors about federal universities charging excessive fees. And the clarification have come from various vice chancellors saying that they are not charging fees beyond what is authorized by the federal government. That is, tuition is free. But however, services provided, which include sometimes facilities in the department, also issues of accommodation, the university has no choice other than to charge. These are the instances that is probably escalating school fees. But if you compare it to the private universities, the charges there are astronomical, very, very astronomical. For instance, there's this university in Ebonyi State named after Alex Ekweme. A medical student who was registered there was required to pay up to about 1 million. A parent had to complain. So these are the instances where they are complaining. But talking about academic calendar, if the issue of incessant strike is eliminated, then we can have the university settle down to their regular strike. During our time, we used to have a university calendar run from June round to the other year. And
was it from June or from September, October to June?
And ending in June.
Yes. Well, I mean, curious. The point is, some of us have our personal views on this issue, particularly for students in the federal universities. Virtually now, we have to come to the realization that we are no longer in the 1970s when the federal government declared tuition free because we had a lot of oil money pouring in. And so it became almost, suicidal for any government to attempt, to withdraw the subsidy on tuition for federal institutions. If you see the amount that is written as tuition for professional and non-so-called professional courses, to be honest with you, is ridiculous. And then you train these persons, and then the next day they are taken off from the country to go and apply their services elsewhere. So I don't know. It's something that we have to come to. If you send your child to a private primary school or secondary school, you know how much you pay per term.
All right. Well, on that note, Bayo, we appreciate
thank you very much.
Your analysis this morning. We thank you, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for more analysis on the newspaper review. This is Good Morning Nigeria. We will take a short break now. When we come back, we'll of course be dealing with the topic for the day, which is the unbundling of mass communication and the nation's tertiary institutions.
Nigeria is our country, and it's the only country we have. Irrespective of religion, tribe, the heroes of our past did their best to take Nigeria to where it is today. It will be unfortunate, I repeat, unfortunate, absolutely, if we don't keep Nigeria intact. We must put our differences behind. We must let everybody know that human beings cannot live together without some differences. But at the end of the day, our country is Nigerian. It must always come first.
Get ready for the Unity Challenge reality TV show. Coming soon.
Are you aware that your perfect family may be under threat by germs? Germs can cause infectious diseases like diarrhea, typhoid, and flu. These infectious diseases are amongst the biggest killers of adults and children. In Nigeria, tens of thousands of children under the age of 5 have died due to diarrhea caused by germs, which could easily have been prevented. These illness-causing germs are everywhere. Dirty surfaces, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes, in unclean bathing water, To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's 1 capful. For surface cleaning, for first aid, for your laundry, in your bathing water, and to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure.
I'm on City Hot. Let's go, guys.
Babe.
Yeah?
Would you please turn on your hotspot?
Okay, there you go. My lady. Play this ball. Hey, hold this guy down.
Password, please.
0808.
Babe.
Yeah.
You have a message.
From who? Maybe. Read it out now. Read it out to my ears.
Free your mind with Airtel Smart Talk and enjoy calls to all networks at a flat rate of 11 kobo per second. Dial *315# to join.
Fine girl. Can I have your phone, man?
Airtel, the smartphone network. Sports coverage and reporting require special skills which can only be acquired through training and experience. NTA TV College JOS invites sports reporters, administrators, commentators in the private and public sector to a special 2-week capacity building course on sports coverage and reporting skills in broadcasting. The course will equip participants with contemporary reporting skills for local and international sports and also expose participants to modern trends in sports commentaries, scripting, shooting, directing, and much more. Take advantage of the course to develop your skills and capacities in sports coverage and reporting. Date 17th to 28th February 2020. Course fee 80,000 naira only, accommodation inclusive. Running concurrently is a special 4-week intensive course on record management and registry functions. Participants will be tutored on modern techniques of record keeping and registry management. Date 17th February to 13th March 2020. Course fee 100,000 naira only. Accommodation inclusive. Venue of both courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA TV College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos, Plateau State. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
Well, we thank you for staying with us up to this moment on Good Morning Nigeria. And to set the tone for our conversation this morning on unbundling mass communication, let's now take this background report put together by correspondent Joseph Johnson.
So this is a tree, obviously, of course. It has a trunk but many branches. And most times, the different branches grow their own fruits and leaves. That's supposed to be the case with most trees. At least, that's how nature has made it. Now, this also applies to other aspects of life. Like the trees, mass communication has been a trunk that has had its branches choked up in it. But now, the National Universities Commission, NUC, has made the different branches to sprout and function independently. The Executive Secretary of the NUC, Professor Abubakar Rashid, explains that the realities of the day has made it necessary for mass communication to be unbundled into 7 separate degrees.
This is in line with the trends all over the world, because when somebody will do this, to say, yes, but we may retain the mass comm for those universities that have not yet developed the full competences in the areas.
Education is essentially for knowledge, but beyond knowledge, you also have to make yourself very competitive in the market. I would rather advise universities to try as much as possible and meet the NUC deadline of 2020. The takeoff date is September 2020, which is the next admission date.
Some students and universities are already catching in on the development. Idrisu Edegbo is one of them. He tells me he's got his eyes on everything tech.
Well, as a student of mass comm, personally, I feel like the course itself is too saturated. So this opportunity now gives students across Nigeria the chance to actually specialize. And that's a gift, if you ask me.
Meanwhile, Elizabeth and Maman are exploring the possibilities of settling for film studies, and aspects they both share keen interest in.
I would like to be in filmmaking category because I just like everything that has to do with filmmaking and dramatizing and all of that.
I want to specialize in making movies, especially Nollywood movies.
If all goes well with the implementation process, universities like the trees that sprout forth fruits and leaves to reflect wellness would likewise churn out graduates that will not only meet the demands in the industry, but will also fit into emerging traits of the 21st century.
All right, thank you very much, Josiah Johnson, for that backgrounder. We have with us here in the studios academics and practitioners. First, let's welcome Professor Emmanuel Dandawara, former head of the Department of Mass Communication, Nasarawa State University, KEFI. He is also the current chairman of the Education Advisory Board of the Institute of Public Relations. Prof, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
Okay, also here with us in the studios is the head Zonal Operations Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, APCON. He's based here in Abuja. Let's welcome Ahmed Yelwa.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, and Director of Training at Voice of Nigeria and veteran journalist Ben Chima is also here with us in the studios. Ben, delighted to have you with us on Good Morning.
Thank you. Welcome. Good morning.
Okay.
All right, and we also have joining us in our Kano Network studio, the Dean, Postgraduate School, Bayero University, Kano, and Professor of Mass Communication, Omar Pate. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Nigeria.
And from our Lagos studio, we'll be also hosting the former editor of The Guardian and, of course, head of the board of Guardian newspapers, Martin Lodger. Martin, it's good to have you this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, gentlemen, let's begin this conversation from Kano, where Professor Omar Pate was deeply involved in the committee that made the recommendations on the unbundling of mass communication studies. Professor Omar Pate, why unbundle mass communication?
Thank you and good morning once again. Just like my boss, the Executive Secretary of the NUC, said in the clip that you showed, mass communication has come a very long way, and the global trend these days is to have them based on their aspects of specialization. And I have been fairly involved with UNESCO at the global level. I'm the director representing Africa on the UNESCO Network for Communication Professors, and we meet quite often in Paris and other places, Montreal and all of that, and we have been discussing on some of these issues. UNESCO, being the global custodian of issues relating to communication and freedom of expression in the world, has given very clear directions on how these things should be, and it has been sensitive to evolving global trends. Not only that, if you look at the current revolution in the information and communication technology sector, you know that communication has become one of the fastest and most dynamic areas in human life. Every day, newer ways of disseminating information are coming up. And because of that, you can see how it has also impacted and affected the information industry. The media is no longer as it used to be. Today we have what we call mass self-communication. And again, you could also see ways of gathering, processing, and disseminating of information completely changing. Then if you also look at the trend in our own country, look at our own internal and external dynamics. Internally, there are newer things that I imagine in Nigeria. Our population is increasing. Today, our population is over 200 million. And population of the media setup is also expanding by the day. And not only that, newer ways of distributing and disseminating information are coming up. Then you look at our own democratic setup. democracy cannot function without accountability. And you cannot talk of accountability without talking about a very qualitative information sector or journalism wing and its related areas. And because of that, we need to also look at how we train those who are going to become journalists in the future, who are going to become public relations and advertisers and all of that. Again, look at how the film industry in Nigeria is evolving. And look at those who pioneered the film industry. They did not go to school to read anything like film. They did not go to school with the Kano. If you take the Kannywood film industry, you take the Nollywood film industry, and they are contributing significantly, either in entertaining the people of Nigeria or to our own economic setup, the GDP. All these things are very, very important. And above all, the rise of populism governance, not only in Nigeria, but in other parts of the world. And with populism, where you have more emotionalism than reasoning in governance, you have truth being attacked. Today, look at all over the world. Truth is being attacked. And because truth is increasingly being attacked, accountability is decreasing. It means we need to have qualitative journalists who can also be sensitive and be able to address these issues. And again, look at the economy that has affected the media sector. Today, the economy of the media is not so good, and the implications are so glaring. People are no longer reading newspapers as they used to be. Attention is increasingly moving towards video and audio, and the social media platforms are becoming very, very central in information dissemination. So because of all of this, there is a need for us to reflect and see what other countries have done in other parts of the world. You go to many countries today, you don't find anything called mass communication. So we also here need to contribute our own quota and also be part of this so that we can train experts, information experts, journalists, quality journalists who can respond to these emerging challenges either from the technological angle or from the economic aspect of keeping the media to survive, and all of these things. So we have taken into consideration all of these and looked at our own context and then came up with the suggestions that the NUC need to help us to revolutionize the study. And likely, every individual you can think that has something to do with mass communication in this country was involved in the process of coming up with the new curriculum. We talk of the major regulator, the NUC, that's the National Universities Commission. Talk of the industry, bodies like NTA, FRCN, newspapers were all involved. Talk of the regulators like the National Broadcasting Commission, the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, then the National Press Council, newspaper proprietors, all of them were involved. Then, of course, the academics, we were deeply involved. Almost every senior professor who matters in mass communication in this country was involved. We brought people from Paris at the UNESCO headquarters, they were involved. Then we also had the industry well represented, like I've said. We also had civil society organizations and indeed interested individuals. So at the end of the day, then the unions or the professional associations, they were also NUJ, Association of Professionals of Communication Professionals in Nigeria, African Council of Communication Education, and all of that. They were all involved. At the end of the day, we came together, brainstormed with the active support of some of our seniors like Professor Abdallah, the VC of NUS, of National Open University, and the active support and financial support of MacArthur Foundation of the United States with their Nigeria's office. They supported us all through. And at the end of the day, a complete compendium was produced, which went through all the checks that you can think of, and eventually it went to the NUC, and NUC presented to the federal government of Nigeria. Even the information minister, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, was involved.
All right, Professor Palte, your opening remark is actually loaded, and I want to appreciate you for that. But we'll be returning to you in due course because there are other areas we would like you to clarify with respect to this decision already taken by the NUC. It's a quantum leap, if you ask me, when it comes to mass communication study. But we'll return to you. For now, let's come back to Abuja, where we have Professor Emmanuel Dandaura, who is also head of Department of Mass former head of Department of Mass Communication at Nasarawa State University. Now, what is your view about the unbundling? Are we prepared for that, in terms of, facilities, in terms of tools required to really professionalize, different aspects of mass communication?
Well, in terms of the industry, there's a great need, as my colleague Professor Patri has said, for the unbundling, in the sense that virtually each of these areas that we now have degree programs in area of communication, you find out that in the old curriculum you have just 2 or 3 courses, and that doesn't give room for the students to properly explore those areas they're interested in. Take for instance public relations, which is represented in Nigerian Institute of Public Relations in the entire process of the unbundling, and you look through all the curriculum we have, there are just about 3 courses. The best of the universities had only 3 courses in mass communication. And this is a situation where we expect that these students, when they graduate, they're interested in becoming public relations practitioners. And we expect too that they will fit into the industry. But a situation where you have done just 3 courses, you are neither here nor there. But as to whether we have the facilities, I think that to a large extent, there's a lot of upgrade that would need to be done by most universities, because you need to have at least 3 or 4 departments to run a faculty of this nature. But don't forget that we have been training students in these areas before now. And the accreditation process includes ensuring that you have the required laboratories to run the different specialty. So to a great extent, you might find up to 50% of the universities in good position in terms of even equipment to break into 3 departments. And I also believe that with the large number of postgraduate students we have been turning out in recent years, virtually every year, we have an increase in the number of PhDs we are pushing out of the market. Before now, it was difficult for us to retain PhDs in mass communication in our departments. But every year now, at least I can say, we are producing upward of 6, 7 to 10. And that is a good number that can feed in terms of the manpower. But I believe that in terms of resources, 50% of the universities now can really run at least 4 of these programs minimum. Okay, thank you, Professor Emmanuel Dandara. Let's come to the APCON rep, Yawa Ahmed. Yeah. Does advertising need a first degree in advertising?
Yes.
And why?
Definitely, and we are all, the industry, we are all delighted that this, the unbundling of the mass com generally. Because most of the graduates, as the prof said, it's only 3 courses in advertising. So when they come to the market, they cannot give you anything. You start training all over. But now with this unbundling, they are going to have all the courses that are relevant in the industry, and when they come in, they can just easily pitch in and then give what we are looking for. The whole industry are really in the support of this unbundling, and I'm sure that there's a lot of opportunities for the young graduates to be, employed in the industry. There are so many opportunities. The industry is going to give a platform whereby they can go for IT and then understand how on the course of the studies. That is the backend of what the industry is trying to give to this. Before now, we have to, APCON for many years has been organizing this kind of, the whole universities to invite students of mass communication and other courses like marketing, graphic arts, to a training like just 5 days, and sponsor the best student in Nigeria to France for an international conference, whereby creativity was awarded, as in the award was given to the best creative arts that change the whole narrative, change perception, or increase sales in certain volume. So that is part of what we have been doing to introduce the students to the creative aspect of advertising and to introduce them to the industry and create awareness that they can put in a career in advertising.
Now, Ben Sherman, kudos, has been given to the committee that came up with this, and of course, the endorsement of their recommendation by NEC is another, healthy development. In your opinion, are we prepared for this? You being a a director training at the Voice of Nigeria, and of course a veteran journalist. Are we prepared for this?
Absolutely, we are prepared. And why do I say so? If you look at the trend, we are virtually in a period where you can call transition. Those days you used to have some cut editing using razor blades and co and sellotape. You cut edit. Later on it became dop edit. And today we're talking of just highlight and delete. So things are just changing very, very fast. But again, if you also look at the age we have, they are of the digital age. Therefore, in terms of learning, they are ready. But before all of that, what is on ground for this takeoff? Very, very vital. We've had a situation where some students will come for industrial training or youth corps members. By the time they learn, it's the first time they're entering a studio. These are people with degrees, first class, mass comm, journalism, yet they've not entered into a formal place called a journalism kind of a thing. We are actually ready, but how are we ready? Where is also the light? The facilities available in terms of training, and we also need a situation where lecturers should be able to leave their universities, go to media houses and have the real thing. Go to studios, you can present, you can produce, you can be a reporter, and by the time you go back to your university, you are, of course, having a synergy with the students, you're on the same page, because we've seen a situation where some lecturers will come in to assess their students at IT points. Some of the things we want them to know, they're actually not in touch with them at the university level. So all of this, we ensure that there is professionalism. We are ready, but again, we need some facilities on ground. Surely, it's nice that it's been unbundled. It's just like the case of NEPA. When it was too much for one body, they decided to break it to generation, distribution, transmission. So where you have a course like communications in journalism, a situation where we always talk of where it bleeds, it sells, should not be the issue. Developmental journalism implies we look at what should be reported. Is it positive? Is it going to be injurious? And what are the laws governing even journalism itself? When we're talking of defamation, for example, libel, slander, and all that, all of this will be taught to the new breed. We are ready for all of this. The laws must also be there. And of course, we should be able to govern journalism. When I say govern journalism, the laws must take its effect.
Just to follow up, you mentioned here now that in some cases, some lecturers, in mass communication department may not have even seen studio in their lifetime. Now, how would they now begin to lecture the new breeds we're talking about, in a compartmentalized, mass comm where you now have, specialized in advertising, specialized in this? Who are the lecturers that will do that?
Absolutely, the lecturers are still the old breed and the new breed. I mentioned what they call transition. And the moment you have them blended, we are talking of cut edit, dub edit, and highlight and delete. Things will change definitely. I was in a place where a head of department was insisting that lecturers must be ICT compliant. They should be able to type whatever they're doing. I had one old lecturer saying, look, I will resist every attempt for me to be turned into a typist. So you can see that such people will actually trail behind. But in terms of coming on board, there is just no option to change. Adopt it,
all right,
accept
Ben.
it.
Okay, Ben, thanks. We'll come to you. We'll return to you when we're talking about the adequacy of the faculty and other aspects of the curriculum. But we earlier introduced Martin Soloja in our Lagos Network Center. Martins, you're back on screen now. Give us your own opinion. You've been a print journalist and you've also had a stint with the broadcast industry. Give us a sense of what you think about the unbundling of mass communication as a field of study.
It's long overdue. It should have come before now.
the social technologies disrupted curriculum long ago, but it's just good that the stakeholders have come together to see the need to unbundle this from generalization to specialization. Because as Professor Pate and others have said, this is the age of digital journalism. And they started this from one of the best journalism schools in the world, especially in the English-speaking world, Columbia School in New York. When they saw the need, more than a decade ago, they took some aspect of journalism and joined it with computer science to make digital journalism, comprising text, video, and sound, so that you become a comprehensive journalist that is good for the 21st century. Because we have been toying with what Alvin Toffler called illiterates of the 21st century. And Alvin Toffler, as we have quoted him several times, says the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So this is an opportunity to relearn, to unlearn so many old things like that, and then relearn. I'm impressed by the remark of our colleague there about the need to do some orientation for even teachers of journalism, digital journalism. Because if you are not there now, you are not there. You need to specialize in film production. You need to specialize in journalism, print journalism. You need to specialize in broadcasting. You need to specialize in advertising, as it's been said. Because if you are not there now, you will become an illiterate of the 21st century. But what we need to emphasize at this juncture is that it needs a robust investment so that teachers also will be involved in the transition that Ben talked about. I like what the Bayero University that actually pioneered this in this place now, because Lagos State University began and then opted out in this disruption and growth into on this School of Journalism, as it's going to be called now. Sometime, in 2018, they took all the heads of Department of Journalism, Mass Communication, Polytechnics, and universities to Bayero University, Kano. I was one of the resource persons. And we talked extensively about this transition, about what it needs to set up this school. And specifically, two resource persons, including one from UAE, we talked about data and investigative journalism. Because social media, that is the in thing now, has disrupted breaking news. But to break down the news, you require skill in investigative and data journalism. Because journalism of these days should be, the stories should be measurable. If you cannot measure things, things will not get attention. You see, a few newspapers have started this data and investigative journalism now. Now, it means that we need to train people to be able to teach data and investigative journalism. If you cannot do that now, you know that you will also not be in the market. So it is important to get people to understand that it needs investment, because from what we are saying now, the schools require people who are practitioners, some of us, to be made even visiting practice professors to be teaching. But the problem is that they don't have money to pay anybody to teach this thing now. They have involved some of us in some schools at my old Department of Mass Communication, University of Lagos. We've tried to get involved. But the truth is that the heads of department, the managers of these schools, do not have fund to pay people to come. If you want me to come, maybe evening time to be involved in some seminars, to share my experience with students, you need to pay me. But here, they don't pay people. They don't have the money. So there should be robust investment. That was why somebody was talking about we need to have up to 4 departments. it is not enough to talk about this thing. It is also important to prepare for it. If you do not have equipment, if you don't have a student, as I know Bayero University is building a lot of things with the help of MacArthur Foundation and the school and what have you. You need the printing press. You need so many studios for some of these courses that have been unbundled. If you do not have them, you will just be talking theory. So it requires robust investment. And the stakeholders need to know this and need to talk to the owners of institutions who want to be part of this unbundling, because it is good that they have started this thing. It's also important to get people to prepare to fund this. And this has been discussed extensively at our own editorial board, where I am the executive head, where the chairman of the board, all the professors, we have up to 8 professors, yes, 8 professors at the editorial board of The Guardian. We have discussed this thing extensively. Funding. Government has been worried. The stakeholders have not been robust in discussing this. They're afraid of students. But if you do not have good funding for so many of these courses, you will not be able to teach them. You need practitioners. You need your Sadalos of this world. You need the Atoyebis of this world. You need the Re'ekus of this world. You need the Danagbeses of this world. You need all the broadcasters that you can think of, the veterans, to get into the classroom and teach. Because in this age, the practitioners would teach and collaborate with the professors to teach. You get practice professors from outside. We should not be afraid of that. This is the age of disruptive technologies, and we should face it robustly if we want things to work.
Thank you. That's an explosive contribution from Martin Soloj. And we'll come back to you definitely. But for now, let's go to Professor Palte once more. Professor Palte, Onoja mentioned something that is very, very pertinent here. He said, we are transiting from generalization to specialization. And for you to specialize, you have to also mobilize. You have to also fund. And you have to have the personnel to do that. Your fellow prof here with me did say that 50% of high institutions in Nigeria should be prepared to take on this issue of specialization. But of course, from the conversation that has unfolded, it does appear that we also lack the personnel to impart this knowledge that we're talking about in all the 7 created study areas under mass communication. Now, what's your take on the fact that we don't have enough teachers to do this? And some teachers who have been practicing teaching in mass communication departments across the institutions in the country, some of them don't know what studio looks like. Some of them don't know what editing or production is all about. They could teach that theoretically, but in terms of practice, it's not going to work. And if you are going to specialize, that means somebody has to know what to do at a particular point in time. Now, how do you react to this? Because usually when we have issue of policy in this country, no problem. But when it comes to implementation, there are always issues. Are you sure that we're not going to face the same situation with the unbundling of mass communication in our tertiary institutions?
Thank you very much, Korean. We have noted all the observations raised either by Martins or by the rest of the colleagues or you. We are quite conscious that there will be challenges in the implementation of the new curriculum, just like any other thing that is new. There will be some level of resistance. There will be some level of adjustment in the minds and thinking, of course, attitude of some of our colleagues. But before then, let me give you a rundown of some of these new programs. Currently, we run what we call mass communication. But with the unbundling, there will be 7 new departments, as you have noted, or areas of specialization. And these areas are: 1, you have journalism and media studies, broadcasting, information and media studies, development communication, advertising, public relations, film and multimedia studies. I think these are the 7 new areas. And with these new 7 areas, there will be, of course, newer requirements of facilities, There will be new requirement for additional lecturers or additional hands, and of course, readjustments of those who are in the business. I totally agree with what Mr. Shemang said, that some of our colleagues in the universities must readjust their attitude. In fact, you need to know that some of us even resisted this unbundling process. I had the honor of being the team lead for the entire process. And I can tell you some of my experiences with some of our colleagues. They were just damn too pessimistic. They were not even sensitive to the changing realities in our societies and the kind of training that we have to give our students. And you know what it means now? People have to read new books. People have to get new orientations for them to impact on their students. Now, going back to some of the issues you have raised, you see, the government, as we always hear, will not be able to fund all our universities and all our facilities. Mass communication is just one faculty in any university. If you meet a vice chancellor like my own vice chancellor, he has about 17 different faculties under him and units. And every faculty will have his own requirements, which means he cannot take the entire resources of the university and say he's going to build a new faculty of communication. And so the alternative is, like we have realized earlier, to look for alternative ways of raising funds. And that was why I, again, with the assistance of my vice chancellor and the leadership of the university, went out to look for collaboration. And luckily, we got MacArthur Foundation that has been working with us. Last week, I came back from London. I went to the BBC. BBC has agreed that we are going to work with the BBC. And BBC, you know, is a global leader. We had extensive tour of the BBC facility. We had meetings with the BBC teams, and they are coming to Bayero University to support us in content. They're going to support us with facilities and going to support us with training. And there are people who will be coming as resident lecturers. Our students, our lecturers will also be going on attachment and all of that. And apart from that, we have also built into the new curriculum a mechanism for lecturers to go on attachments to media organizations. Already in Kano for the past 4 years, our colleagues have been going on attachment to Premium Times, to Daily Trust, to some of our media organizations. Lecturers, not even the students. You go there and then be exposed to some of these new realities. So the name of the game now is diversification, is collaboration, is teamwork, and is opening up. And we are also collaborating with other universities. Like Martins told you, here, as the leader in the Faculty of Communication, I bring people from different parts of the world. They come to our faculty, interact with our colleagues. Kingsley here, sitting with you, was at our faculty, and several other people from the NT and from other places. So this is the way to go. And my own expectation is with the directive coming from the NUC, universities will now be prepared for this. And how is it going to be? It's not going to be a one-day-off affair. It's going to be gradual. Maybe in the next 2-3 years, universities will have the option of running mass communication while they prepare to unbundle. Like in Bayero, we have already started the business of unbundling. You know, we have a school, and perhaps before the end of the year, we are going to start 3 additional departments. The only challenge we are going to have in Bayero today is having film department. That one, we do not have the facilities. And perhaps advertising, that may take us a little while to prepare. But for the rest of the departments, we are fully prepared. Our radio, our brand new digital radio station will be commissioned on the 19th of February. And again, it will be a platform for training of our students. And we are also focusing attention on areas like investigative and data-driven journalism. This is now the place. And then these social media trainings and all of that. If you don't train your students in digital communication, you are simply wasting their time. By the time they graduate and go into the real media world, they will completely be non-competitive, they won't fit in, and it becomes difficult for them. And we have to also train our students in investigative journalism. Look at the way our democracy is evolving. Look at the rate at which our leaders escape from being accountable. And look at the crisis that is enveloping Nigeria. It means we need robust, well-trained and qualitative professionals who can deliver good journalism that can challenge some of these misdemeanors that we are seeing. But otherwise, at the rate we are going to continue to produce psychophants who cannot even be able to be sensitive to the situation in the country. And at the end of the day, those who have been ruining Nigeria will continue to ruin Nigeria. And truth will continuously be attacked. Therefore, our universities, wherever there is a progressive vice chancellor, you can be sure that he will take this matter seriously. Mass communication is a very popular discipline in any university. It is quite demanding, it is expensive, but it is also popular and can bring in its own resources. So our lecturers must also, as all of you have noted, be up and doing. And we need the political support of our leaders in the universities. And I can assure them that if they're able to operate and maintain functional communication schools, the schools will, one, act as their PROs, and two, will pay for them. And there are a lot of agencies that will be willing to collaborate and work. We shouldn't shy away from collaborating with the industry. There is a lot of problem, a gap between the industry and the classroom.
All right, Professor Maropate, thank you very much there for your comments. We hope we'll be in a position to drill into some of the aspects of this conversation this morning. I've been asking just single-line questions. I didn't want to get drawn into the conversation, but perhaps it's useful to also contextualize what went on before in mass communication studies, and also to try and correct some misconceptions. It's not necessarily the case that you had mass communication teachers in the past who had no practical experience. You also had mass communication teachers who went from the classroom and took their sabbatical in media organizations. The Guardian newspapers, for instance, provided a very robust platform for a number of academics who came and then took their sabbatical. Some of them, of course, stayed behind. Olatunji Dare was one of them. He came from the University of Lagos. Professor Idowu Sobowale, of course, was a journalist in the past. He got himself embedded amongst armed robbers, and then he did these beautiful stories. Akin Feleye was also at Concord, and several others that you can mention. And with the first department of mass communication in this country at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, was Mahama Metal. Had laboratory newspaper, weekly newspaper, which was called the Record. I also had the privilege of being an editor of that paper. We were producing that paper every week as students. And then you also had industrial attachment. University of Nigeria, Nsukka started industrial attachment. You went on your industrial attachment at the end of your second year, at the end of your third year, and of course by the time you graduated, you went to your youth service and you had the opportunity of practice. Now, some of the contents that have been talked about now, Martins was saying from generalization to specialization. When you were doing, say, advanced reporting, you had areas relating to public affairs reporting. So which you will now begin to break down into the digital age, because the era I'm talking about now was analog. I mean, you used linotype, for your print, XYZ. I just forgot. Let me also mention APCON. Dr. Charles Okibo, who's at North Dakota University. I mean, he taught us advertising. Yeah. He became APCON registrar. I think he was the first APCON registrar, by the way. So that experience had always been there. But the whole philosophy of saying, look, the world has become more specialized, and therefore you need to also break down these areas. That point is noted, but let's not indicate that some of the lecturers. Professor Maropate himself is a go-getter, and you can see the way he has virtually put Bayero University in the lead in this reform. His is the first faculty of mass communication, and everybody's impressed with what is playing out. The studios that he was talking about last year when we had a seminar that was organized by him and a workshop, Tony Radia, Professor Tony Radia, former DG of NTA, he was there. Sirius Toba was there. Akin Feleye was there, my humble self, and several others. But in terms of the content of the curriculum, there are a few things that I would like Professor Dandara to also speak to, so that we don't get misled. Now, when you have a faculty of mass communication or a school of mass communication, there's no compulsion that any such school or institution must offer all 7 new areas of mass communication studies. That's one I would like you to respond to. Second point will also be, fine, in the content of your program, will it be that when you get into, say, let's say journalism studies or advertising, you will do nothing else or public relations, you just from day one. It will be public relations until you have your degree. Or advertising, it will be advertising, brand management, XYZ until you get your degree. I'm saying this because when you look at law, for instance, law is a faculty. I mean, you get exposed to the broad areas of law. And then, of course, you have elective courses, but there are core compulsory courses that you must take. What is the new outlook like?
Well, first I must thank you for the explanation. I was beginning to become very concerned that it looks like there's a lot of misunderstanding of the situation on ground. First, on the curriculum, let me say that it's not just going to be public relations, advertising from day one to the beginning. There are common courses that cut across, the student is going to still have the opportunity of understanding what is happening in related areas, because the man in journalism also needs to be aware of what is happening in social media and things like that. So there are courses that cut across the disciplines, and it's actually not correct that you must be in a position to run the 7 programs before you can unbundle. Bayero started with 3 universities, 3 departments. In fact, theaters was one of them, and they are now moving on, as Professor Pate said, to bringing in more departments. I think that by the NUC guidelines, they are looking at 3 or 4 departments for you to have a faculty of communication, which is what the model we have in BUK. And of course, you cannot take away the current executive secretary NUC from what started in BUK. And so he is quite equally clear about what we are doing here. And you were with us when we presented the curriculum to him. He did mention that the NUC is also interested in working out a procedure for that exchange between those of you in practice and those of us in the academia. And it is indeed not correct to say that there has not been engagement. You talked about Professor Tony Radia. He worked with me when I was heading the department in mass communication, and we did all to encourage him to stay. And he has become a professor today. And when you look across most of the departments, this engagement has been there. I'm also surprised to hear from Martins that universities are not in a position to pay. Well, maybe his alma mater, like he mentioned, but I do know that most of our universities, particularly in this area where I visit often, we have visiting lecturers. It's a structure that is on ground. The only problem is, just as we say some lecturers might not have full knowledge of what happens in the and indeed not every lecturer needs to know what happens in the studio. There are those who specialize in theory. They don't need the studio, but there are people that actually focus also on those practical components. So in terms of engagement, we also need to realize that yes, we have quite a lot of manpower out there that have acquired postgraduate training and all that, practicing, that we could bring on board. Universities already have those structures, and then NUC is even wanting to put in place a structure that will become more formal and more acceptable. Then in terms of facilities, the problem is that when I say 50% of the universities can actually start the faculty at the moment, the facilities in some cases are there, but you see, they are in different places. In some universities, some of the studios are under the theater as department because the film component, for instance, at the moment is being run more under the Department of Theaters than in the old mass communication. So you have situations where some universities have these facilities, but they are not pulled together for common use, either by mass communication or theater. You also have a situation where universities already have engagements. Take the private universities. Some of them, their proprietors already have radio stations. Some have them on campus. Some are just next door. So really, in terms of facilities, the facilities need to be upgraded, yes, but you do not need to have full complements to run the 7 programs for you to introduce the specialty programs we have introduced. If you can afford 3 or 4, I'm very sure that NUC will give the go-ahead. And universities ought to pick courses that are of interest to their catchment areas. You don't have to do everything. That's what makes you, our program should be driven by demand. And of course, there is demand, like Pate said. Virtually all the departments of mass communication have overflowed. So in terms of students, we have that. In terms of staffing, again, when we did the presentation, luckily, the ES of the TED Fund came in, if you remember, at NUC. And so it means that TED Fund itself is interested in what is happening here. Yeah. And TED Fund has just liberalized the process. So in terms of training, it's not a very gloomy situation. Ted Fund has liberalized it. You don't even have to be a confirmed staff now for you to enjoy Ted Fund sponsorship. So there is money to train the staff. The issue is attitude. The staff that are willing to be trained and acquire the new skills, of course, there are opportunities for them. Those that are not willing, they will be phased out gradually. So it is really not a problem.
All right, Professor Dandara, thanks a lot. I mean, while I was reading out the names of some of the lecturers, who went carried from the classroom to industry, I mean, I just submitted because he mentioned the executive secretary of the NUC, that's Professor Abubakar Rashid, who teaches media English at Bahrain University, where he was also vice chancellor. He actually went to the New Nigerian newspapers, where he ran the New Nigerian newspaper at the peak of of its glory. So he also had that practical experience, along with several other persons who've been in the Australia as well as the academy. I will take a short break now. When we return, we'll take tweets and then return to our guests.
When I was a little girl, I loved spending time with Mum and Grandma cleaning the house. I was so excited to sing in the choir. And your shirts are always so white. I knew what Mum's secret was. Today, I'm a modern woman that still trusts the secrets passed down to me. It's Jik, of course. The original trusted bleach, which can be used all around your house for amazing results.
Shh, it's our little secret.
It's no secret. It's Jik's best ever extra whitening power. Just Jik it.
My name is Giato Adeza Adams, the General Manager, Corporate and Strategic Communications, Nigerian Port Authority. As regards the land borders closure, available statistical data from APMT, which is one of our terminal operators that is involved in container handling terminal, has recorded an increase of 200 TEUs of cargoes into their terminal as a result of cargo diversion from the vessels originally meant for neighboring countries. That shows you that the terminal operators is going to have an increase in revenue, which is accrued to the terminal, and at the same time, Nigerian Port Authority will equally benefit from the revenue increase. So that is the benefit we have derived from the border closure.
Chief, good morning, sir. You are here already?
No, now my spirit there, my body there for house. What kind of question is that? Were you not the one that fixed this meeting for 8 a.m.? You are now coming by 10 a.m. and start asking me jab questions.
But Chief, now, I'm sorry. Don't you also go late for meetings sometimes? You know now, African time thing.
No more African time. And no more pancaking of face during office hours. At the end of the day, we will lose valuable time. We will not make progress. If we want to move this nation forward, we must treat business as business and respect time. Change begins with me.
Thank you, sir. I am sorry. Can we go for the meeting now, Chief?
Better.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Well, we are right back. We thank you for staying with us up to this moment on Good Morning Nigeria. We have indeed dived below the headline news of the unbundling of mass communication to the nitty-gritty of the conversation. And we're yet to also speak on the entry requirement, for students who wish to study the new areas, the unbundled aspect of mass communication. That's if time allows us to do that. But for now, Nigerians are beginning to respond to the conversation by, of course, aware of tweets. They are trying to also share their own views on the topic. First of all, we have Mike Anyako. Mike Anyako says the effective communication is the bread of life in this modern society. The decision to unbundle mass communication by NUC is a welcome development. It will lead to specialization and away from production of mediocrity, which was hitherto the case. It will also attract investors.
What does it mean by production of mediocrity? There are people with mass communication degrees who are not mediocres. I just wondered. That's right. I think that's a bit insulting. Okay, Amobola Babs has this tweet. Now, it wouldn't have come better. Mass communication is a bundle of many disciplines. It's akin to medicine with various specializations. So the unbundling is a welcome development. However, such unbundling should come with adequate preparation.
Festus Akimbewa, NUC unbundling the study of mass communication is not necessary, as it is better the way it is. But its study should focus on how the media works and how to work in the media while combining practical and theoretical knowledge to give a valuable range of skills, knowledge, and experience.
Akaju Olagbaju, now to make it effective, universities should create separate faculties of communication studies, rather, to have various departments that will accommodate the new branches.
Alaji Ngala simply says it's a welcome development to our dear country.
Dele Jack Solomon, unbundling mass communication is timely. It will allow lecturers to go into the newsroom to practice and journalists to go into the classroom and teach. The new curriculum will accommodate the new developments in new media, particularly the changing landscape of politics and economy.
But I must say, Haruna, the decision is a welcome development, as it will help match with the global trend. Also, it will be more appropriate if the NUC changes the requirements of some courses. It is outrightly to ask candidates who want to study Arabic or Hausa to avail you with English. I don't know.
With credit in English.
With credit in English, exactly.
Okay. All right, Chris Simeon has this tweet. NUC has done well by unbundling mass communication into separate degree programs. But let it not just be a mere reform. The necessary facilities should also be in place to facilitate learning.
Well, Tatus Mondiok, it's absolutely a good move with regards to some negative trends that social media journalism is portraying. The total overhaul and alignment in journalism studies should be streamlined and broadened to accommodate the current trend, so that our future journalists will be well groomed.
Utula Sunday, this is long overdue, considering the nature of mass communication studies. By this unbundling, it will widen specializations and the smooth running of the departments.
Thomas Kajo says this is a major achievement to the media circle, since it will allow for specialization at an early stage of journalism practice.
Raphael Collins, unbundling is good, but having a syllabus that will make them employable after graduation is what they need.
Law Alpha, mass communication is a very wide field of study, so unbundling it is a right step in the right direction.
Okay, let's take the last one. Opikumu Augustine says the decision to unbundle mass communication studies is good because it will create room for specialization, which correlates with division of labor and effective delivery of media services.
Yes, I previously raised the issue of entry requirements. Is it really captured in the entire package? How, if a fresh student wants to study advertising, for instance, what is required of him or her in terms of entry examination, what courses is he required, or subjects rather, is he required to take on to be able to be admitted into a university to study advertising?
Yes, in the curriculum is about 5 courses, which include Maths and English, and one of the social sciences courses for now. There is no advertising in secondary school, so economics and commerce, government can serve as the remaining courses to serve as entry requirement. And as time goes on, I'm sure we already have commerce at the secondary school, which introduction to marketing, advertising, accounting is for the student, and that can be part of the requirement. And it's already listed as part of what was proposed to the NUC, and it was approved for these courses to be part of. And most importantly is I want to the students or the schools to equally give advertising very importance, in the sense that it has a lot of opportunities and people are not aware of. It can provide job opportunities for many youth, but people are not aware. Even the youth didn't know that there is an industry that can absorb them if they have the right knowledge or techniques of how to operate in the industry. And definitely we are going to support the NUC, support in providing the think tank in the industry to have that kind of engagement whereby we give kind of lectures to the student, to the Even the lecturers, sometimes when you go to the universities, some doesn't know much about advertising and the industry. Some doesn't even know all the sectorial groups we have. The Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria that have all the media houses, both radio, TV, the AAAN, that is advertising agents of Nigeria that employ most of the youth that come from there, the O1 that deal with outdoor. So there are so many, the media independent, there are so many opportunities in the advertising industry that a student can take advantage of.
Okay, Ben Shima, let's come to you. We're talking about entry requirements. That's what my colleague Kieran was raising. But it's a crucial thing. At the end of the day, when you have your degree, you have to be employable. Some students are raising the concern that when they have a degree in one specialized field, it might, narrow their job opportunities and even labor mobility subsequently. What's your reaction?
They should have no fear. Why do I say so? I think I should be very, very specific. We have some staff in Voice of Nigeria who actually rate different things, but when it comes to the social media, digital media, they're doing very, very well. And having said so, I also, out of the messages from my respondents read in this studio, only one said unbundling is unnecessary. Why wouldn't you do unbundling when indeed we're talking of media convergence? Media convergence, you take a smartphone, you'll be able to have your newspaper in there. Are you being read there like a newspaper? Okay, are you being heard via radio? Are you being seen or by way of a television or something? The hearing of a radio, television, radio vision now. We have programs on demand, podcast and all that stuff. Why wouldn't we kind of just go in line with modern trends? For that person, I think that he should just have everything. It should be on. So people therefore should realize that this space is so open in terms of, even if you read advertisement, in terms of advertisement, of course, when government wants to a kind of start projects, you're supposed to do some impact assessment of some of these things, community programs. What do you do? Assess them. How will people react to this policy? Government communication on project or policies, for example. Sometimes you fly this kite via the media. Therefore, content, very, very key. And when we're talking of content, it's so diverse. You are in advertising, you are doing developmental journalism, you are doing broadcasting. The space is just there for you to grab. Go into agriculture, you specialize there. Go into military matters, you specialize there. You go to industry, you go to environment. I don't think they have fears. But again, in doing our curriculum for Nigeria, we should look at lecturer content. When I say lecturer content, the capability of the lecturer himself. We also look at the students that will come out, student content, and therefore everything will be bridged together via the curriculum. What are these people being taught? And some people will say, when you see new toys in Africa, it's like some students of polytechnics in China have graduated. So they've created something. We should not therefore be making projects to just be long essays, you cite that authority, cite that authority. Let us begin to create things that are tangible, something that is signable. I mean, we should not just earmark. I usually say, let's earmark. We should see things we are producing. And when we're talking of the studios, and so when you see studio managers, of course, you know they have a test, they have a prowess, they are capable, they are able. Because without them, of course, we are nowhere. So people who tend to say we're going to be limited, it's really not so. And even like we've already said now, you can see some lecturers coming in to take over some jobs in here. Some practitioners or professionals going to the academic world to excel. We have Akin Remti in Lagos. He's also one of them. He's a lecturer. He's also into broadcasting. He's also into unionism. So it's tripartite for him. But I've had cause to visit the International Institute of Journalism here in Abuja. Their studio is just not it. I went to ABU. Of course, I wanted to see their ABU community radio. They said, oh, it's not functioning. What about the studio? They said, yeah, Faculty of Arts, Social Sciences. They have a studio there. Of course, look, things are just not the way it should be. So some of us could be volunteers to come to go do some things, 1, 2, 3, in some of our alma mater.
Yes, we're indeed coming up with the realities, of the time with respect to this unbundling, which means that more jobs need to be done if we're going to perfect it. But I'd like to go to Oloja in Lagos, and I also want you to answer part of the question Kingsley just put across, which has to do with the employability of the expected graduates from all these other new areas. For instance, journalism and media studies, multimedia studies, development communication studies, information and yes. Now, how will students or graduates from these areas be absorbed, and are they employable? Is there any belief that in the near future that the country will develop avenues or areas of absorption that could enable graduates from these areas, be employable in the country?
And then how do they also transfer their labor to other sectors? That's from the discussion we have had so far, we'll see that there will be reskilling and retooling of our people. And you see, as a practitioner, as an editor, as a manager, what we need in the newsroom now is good reporters. Good reporters, because at the end of the day, like Sherman was talking about content. And everything about development of the media, employability here and there, depends on your ability to produce content. If you do not have good reporters, whether radio, or you don't have good reporters, you don't have good analysts, you don't have good quality control officers, there won't be good content. So in the circumstances, we will discover that when there is this specialization, there will be employability. People will get skill. I can assure you that most of the people who are not serious now in the newsroom, once an editor spots a good reporter, whether it's a new graduate, is just coming from work, there will be mobility that he mentioned before. Because most of the editors are already worried. Most managers are worried that we don't have good reporters. We do not have people who can report and analyze very well. Some people can break news. Some cannot break down the news. Some cannot research. By the time we have this specialization, I believe that people will employ themselves, because editors and managers are looking for digital journalists who can practice in the 21st century. Just as I was saying the other time, I was envious when Mr. Osadolo was talking about Jackson School of Journalism. Some of this, his own analysis was good, that it is not true that we do not have good specialists or people who have been moving from newsroom to the industry and from industry to the newsroom. We have had. We are talking about scaling up. For instance, the University of Lagos, Professor Dandaura was talking about, maybe my school didn't have this, my alma mater has. They already have up and running, I think one of the best FM stations in Lagos is the Unilag FM station. They also have a television station that is running already on a digital channel. So they are ready, for instance, and people that they are producing have been to the studio there at the University of Lagos Mass Communication Department now. They are ready to go in, and they are already retooling and reskilling students from the Department of Mass Communication. They are even their television station. They have a general manager. They is well equipped. The governance system is very, very good. So by the time people have skill in the main, you will see that nobody in this century that is skilled enough, resourceful enough, good, and can use English language very well. Because that was one aspect we spoke about in Kano when we had this discussion at this data and investigative journalism seminar that we had. Oh, my. Martin, sorry, we have to interrupt you there. I want to just go very quickly to Professor Umaru Pate in Kano, before we close the conversation this morning. I think that one point, before we get to Professor Umaru Pate, Kyrian, one point that needs to be emphasized is that, look, universities have different offerings. Let's face it, when you are applying to a university, because if the university was offering mass communication and now several disciplines, you have to look for that university that has the right course for you. Are you with me? And then you also have to be sure that based on the ranking or the rating of that university, that from industry or from peers, I said, okay, that is the best place for me to go for film studies, for journalism studies, or for broadcast journalism, or for broadcasting in general. That's the school to go to for advertising. It doesn't mean that all universities or tertiary institutions will offer all of the courses and that they will all be on the same ranking, on the same level. That's why you have a ranking system. But Professor Umaru Pate, this last question for you. What does the unbundling now mean for postgraduate studies? In the past, you could have a degree in mass communication and thereafter proceed to specialize in advertising, or development communication, or public relations, or different aspects. What is the implication of this unbundling for further studies in mass communication?
Thank you very much. Just quickly to answer your question, like we did the unbundling for the undergraduate, at the undergraduate level, this year we shall be focusing on unbundling the mass communication program at the postgraduate level. And we have already got the support for that, and hopefully in the year we shall be convening again to focus on postgraduate studies. But let me just clear some few things that may be bothering the minds of people. Number one, if students are admitted into the program, at the first instance or at the 100 and 200 level, they will be offering similar courses relating to human communication, understanding the context of their area of study and all of that. Then from the 300 and 400 level, they will now specialize in their specific areas at the level of the faculty. And again, like the NUC said, it is not necessary that the universities must start with the 7 programs. You can start with 3, 4, 5. And then based on your own ability and your own availability of resources, you can increasingly add the departments with time. So, and again for issue of employability, in fact, it was one of the issues that even drove us to start this unbundling process. We are quite conscious that employment is no longer as available as it used to be, and that the industry is in need of readily available, highly specialized, multi-skilled individuals. And it is part of that we have also restructured the program in such a way that even without being employed by anybody, a graduate of journalism can on his own employ himself. And we have already seen part of all of this. The same thing with public relations and advertising. There are 1,001 opportunities for these graduates to be on their own, create their own kind of employment opportunities, as well as be able to employ other people. So let me clear whatever kind of fear that anybody may have that the product of this unbundling process will become unemployable. No, in fact, it is.
Professor Pate, well, we have to pause here because time is of essence here now. And of course, proper timing is part of journalism. And I would like to thank you immensely for your contribution this morning, for, of course, making better explanation of what this is all about. You said we're going to unbundle postgraduate level, after this. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Pate. He's, of course, the Dean Postgraduate School, Bayero University, Kano, and Professor of Mass Communication. Thank you once again. And, of course, from our Lagos, let's appreciate the former editor, The Guardian, and the executive head, editorial board of The Guardian, Martins Oloja. Thank you, Martins, for your contribution. Now, back to the studio here, we also have a guest to appreciate. First of all, let's appreciate the Health Zonal Operations Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, APCON, Ahmed Yelwa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your insights on the program. And of course, let's appreciate Professor Emmanuel Dandaura. He is of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, of course, former head of Department of Mass Communication at Nasarawa State University. Thank you indeed.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Coming. Yes, and of course, I would like to appreciate Director Training at the Voice of Nigeria and veteran journalist Ben Chamang. It's been a pleasure hosting you this morning on our breakfast show.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that does it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. We'd like to thank you for being with us. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, we'll enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kieran Umayo. Have a great day.